Hello, folks. Welcome to another Peak Careers interview. This is another interview we're doing on mindfulness. And this time we're looking at how does mindfulness help our clients? So we're kind of looking at this a little different. And we have Sabrina Woods, holistic career life coach and consultant. Sabrina has been on at least one other interview on mindfulness, maybe two. I've kind of lost track, but and then today we have Roberta, who has worked as a limited licensed psychologist in private practice over the years. And interestingly enough, is Sabrina's mother. And it was, we're doing something a little different today. And we're really excited. We were looking, Sabrina and I were kicking around who we might bring in to talk about this topic. And she said that her mom practices and has been doing it for a long time. So I was very excited to hear that. So we're going to talk about what do you think mindfulness does for your clients? How do you use some of these practices in your sessions? And also some tips on what you'd like career coaches to keep in mind. So that's where we're going today. Sabrina is a longtime friend. I can say Sabrina is a longtime friend now. We met online initially, and we just found out that she's a kindred sister to me. We have, every time we talk, we find more things we have in common, from both growing up in Michigan and being, I went to Western Michigan in the Kalamazoo area, but many, many other things. And mindfulness is actually one of them, the many things that we have in common. And Roberta has been practicing mindfulness for many years and includes it in her practice that she does with helping recovering clients. So I'm absolutely thrilled to have both of you here today. And I can't wait to talk about one of my favorite subjects. So let's start with Roberta. What do you think mindfulness does for your clients? How does it help them?
Well, first, Jim, I must say this is really fun to doing this with Sabrina. I think we're Bobsy twins, even though we are mother and daughter. So we keep introducing each other to great things. It's so fun to share this field with her. But my clients are in therapy, and the people that have been drawn to my work are women primarily, and women who have had pretty significant child abuse or child trauma experiences. And you know this, when people say, oh, she looked like she had like a deer in the headlights. That's what happens when a person with a trauma background is triggered and they don't know it, because they are truly back there. They feel, see everything through that trauma lens, and they are not conscious, they're unconscious. So obviously mindfulness it's a very key skill. And when I start to work with people who are not even aware that they lose consciousness, it's a long road, you can imagine. So it's key to my work.
So what do you do with that person? We may be jumping ahead of some of my questions, but I'm just sort of curious. How do you approach that at that point in time?
What people notice is the experience of being in the trauma, but they can't label it that way. They just know they wanted to get the hell out of there, or they just froze. And the situations that they talk about are family events, like going home for Christmas, or how it happens in their relationship, or when they're searching for a job or on the job. So that can come up in all kinds of different life events. But basically what happens is a person has repeatedly the same problems over and over again without success of change.
So when I think of mindfulness, it is about sort of that focusing on the present, though. And so is that one of the things that you're trying to do, is to get them to take that past experience and then and come forward and kind of identify it? Or
they have to recognize that they're in trauma. That's the first stage. And that takes quite a long time because they're very focused on the other. The other did it. So it takes a long time to realize, oh yeah, this is trauma and I have wigged out. I'm not here. So that first stage is realizing they're not present.
Oh, okay. Great. So Sabrina, you want to talk a little bit about what do you define mindfulness as sort of helping your clients? What does it do for your clients?
So when we get to question number 2, I'll talk about some different scenarios when I use it, but I think the effects of bringing mindfulness into my practice can do things like bring a sense of calm when things are upsetting, kind of bring us back to our equilibrium a little bit more. The other thing can be to open us up to see more options, a broader perspective, and also accessing intuition or buried information, because we're so busy during our day. Sometimes we don't even have a chance to think a lot and really reflect. And so I use breath work to kind of bring us, almost like bring us home, bring us back to ourselves, so that then we can access this information that's there, but just not readily there on the surface. So it kind of helps bring things up in a good way. Yeah. So be more
I love
present.
your second point that that it opens up to more choices. I think that is definitely one of the pieces for me that I think about with mindfulness, is that we tend to we're so busy, right? And there's so much stuff going on. And when I'm working with a client, one of the things I want to do is slow that process down, right? I mean, that's really what I want. Let's take a moment. Let's slow this down so that we can actually think about what is really going on. What are maybe even some of the emotions that are sort of affecting this, but how do we slow down so that we can actually thoughtfully look at what's going on? So mindfulness is a huge, can be a real huge help in helping people just slow down, right?
And I'll say one more little thing, and that is when we're in that fight or flight, it's called, we're activating the sympathetic nervous system. And that actually, our brain shifts and we see fewer options, fewer solutions. Our memory is not working as well. There's all these consequences of being in that prolonged chronic stress, fight or flight. So breath work and other forms of mindfulness can actually shift us into the parasympathetic nervous system. And I first learned about this when I was at a conference with my mom in Chicago through the Wellness Institute. I learned those phrases, which really helped me better understand things now. So if we can shift our clients into that calmer state, they're going to access information better, but also just be more present and see more options and not be quite as intense. Again, when we're in super stress or we're in trauma, the world gets really narrow, and the brain research even shows that it gets narrow through our prefrontal cortex. So, yeah.
So let's go to number 2. How do you use mindfulness practices in your coaching or therapy sessions? So we'll segue in. I think that's always helpful to sort of know. It's one thing to know how it happens, but what do you do as in your work, Sabrina, to actually bring that to your sessions?
Sure. So when I was getting ready for this today, I came up with 4 different places where I'm using mindfulness very specifically. And it was fun for me because I hadn't ever really thought it through, but now I know there's 4 times I use it. One is upon arrival. So sometimes someone's coming in from a really busy day and I'll just be like, hey, sounds like today's been stressful. How about, do you want to do a few breaths just to help us arrive? So arrival is one use of breath work. Mm-hmm. The second one would be to soothe or to calm if difficult emotions have started to bubble up. We need to be present for those emotions and process them, and then maybe have some breathing to just bring us back and self-soothe, really. The third one is I'll do guided visualizations to access buried information or access intuition that brings up information. And I'll take people on a scenario like, let's imagine it's a year from now and you're in your dream scenario. Okay. And I can tell a very quick, specific story. I worked with a therapist once who was trying to figure out her own career direction. We did several deep breaths to get her into a more calm, peaceful state. And then in that state of mind, in that mindful state, I was able to ask her these questions to imagine you in the future. Who are your clients? What are your tools, approaches, or methodologies? What are the results you're getting with your clients? And through this practice with her eyes closed and her in her body, you know, accessing her intuition, she was able to verbalize, and I could take notes to help her figure out what is that ideal state, what does it look like in the future? So it's a combination of breath work with visualizations. And then the very last one, the fourth one, is I use it sometimes as a wrap up. It could be, we've just done some deep work or some really good work, and we're, you know, maybe we're talking about personality or values or some other career coaching assessment, you know, element. And I might say, what if we take a few breaths? And then I'll ask, what else is there? Does anything else need to be expressed? Take a few breaths, allow for that emptiness, and see what's there. Is anything important right now that you need to remember? So I'll ask those little cue questions, and little insights have room to pop up. So mindfulness for me is about making space. I'm a creator of space so that person can then put in there what needs to be said. And it's been amazing to work this way.
Yeah, you know, I mean, some people think that mindfulness is associated directly with meditation where you're stopping. But for me, and I think what I hear you saying is that mindfulness is really about being present, you know, and like, I love your definition of creating that space, you know, because I feel like that's one of what we as career coaches do oftentimes is helping people change their mindset. But if they're churning and churning all the time and reacting and dealing with all these thoughts like ping pong balls, a room full of ping pong balls, they can't move forward because they need that space to get to the present, to slow those ping pong balls down, the monkey brain, right, that they talk about in mindfulness. And I think that's such a key part of mindfulness is to give people that space and to get them to the present moment, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Roberta, your thoughts on how do you use mindfulness practices in your sessions?
But that space is so important. Thank you for saying that, Sabrina. Because what a therapist does first with a client is create a safe space. And energetically, we know when we, the clinician or the coach, when you're in a space of calm, your client feels that, right? And immediately relaxes and comes into cadence with you energetically, even working on the screen, although I much prefer in person. So because my clients are so used to being in fight or flight mostly, or collapse, we have to first find that safe place with another person, myself. So that mindfulness is something I practice with the client, but I don't teach it for quite a while. Because first of all, the client has to recognize when the trauma is at work with them, when they've fallen into unconsciousness. That takes a long time. Once they get that, then we begin to talk about how you're going to feel those emotions will come up because it's the superhighway in the brain. So there's the trigger and the emotions come up and the fear comes up. But how can we act and stay present anyway? So it's learning a new behavior while feeling all those old feelings, but being able to stay present with them and stay the course of the new behavior. And slowly the brain there's another pathway, a new pathway that's being created, and the capacity grows. But without mindfulness, there's no beginning point, because clients that I meet don't recognize that they're not here.
Sounds like you're talking neuroplasticity.
That too. Well, there is so much. Thank God the brain is so moldable and changeable and healable, you know. So
I love your point about as a coach or as a counselor or a psychologist, you've got to be calm first. I mean, my business coach, I still have it sitting off to the side here, and she said before she meets with any clients, she kind of just reviews sort of a couple topics, and and so I leave it right next to my desk, because before I meet with a client, I will pull it out and just go, and it's just this, it's almost a mantra, but it's a form of mindfulness where I'm slowing down. I have good value to offer this person. I know I can do it, right? It's a confidence, in some ways, a confidence builder for me, but it's to get my head into that space, that calming space. Because if I'm frenetic and I'm reactive, that all plays out, like you said. I mean, that's such a good point. You know, we have to model that, but you got to practice it. I mean, it's practice, right?
Especially in your personal life. It's easier for me in my professional life, because I walk in the room and I have a habit, sit down in the chair and I'm there.
Yeah.
But today, when I was late for the meeting, couldn't find driving my car, couldn't find the link, etc. I had to keep reminding myself, wait a minute, this is okay. Relax, breathe.
Sort of the other thing I heard as you were talking is this mindfulness is being present and slowing down, so that, as like Sabrina said, there's that space.
Mm-hmm.
We as human beings, it seems to me that we need to deal with the emotions and then the decision-making ability, right? And those are they're kind of all over the place. And sometimes, like, if the emotions are too high, it's really hard to make decisions. Or if you're too frenetic, then you're not paying attention to other things. And I feel, for me, I think about mindfulness, slowing that time down, and what it does is it pulls those emotions down and clears that space for that decision making, like Sabrina said, where that intuition can come out, where that sort of the creativity can, what else is out there? What else? Mm-hmm. Instead of thinking about one option, what have you ever thought about? I thought about doing this, and that. Well, what else is out? What else could you do? If you're not calm, if you've not dealt with that space, the emotions, then you will only see the one option, right?
Yeah.
It's very limiting.
Very small lens. And my clients who are so used to that small lens, when they begin to see the possibilities and begin to look out, get out of that little box that they've been in to protect themselves, they're just amazed. In fact, it does take a long time. And I've had some for a while, and they're all better now. So they're leaving my practice. It's quite extraordinary.
Yay.
I have learned that it does take a long time to heal trauma. I was surprised. I thought, wow, this is amazing me. I'm talking 10 years for some clients. It's a long time. And some of the trauma that I am aware of through my clients has happened at very young ages.
Mm.
And that is such a painful and helpless place
Yeah.
that the client is delivered into, and they think that's what's real.
Mm.
So the idea of an open, free space doesn't exist for them.
Yeah.
So they begin to work on it.
Yeah.
So when you're a coach and you find clients who can't heal, they may be really dealing with difficult trauma. Is the typical thing is this, the reactions don't change. They keep doing the same thing over and over again. And so sometimes they need a therapist or they need trauma work.
Yeah.
I found that often with clients that have come to me in their later years, and they've sort of been through the mill, tried a lot of things, but their trauma wasn't recognized by them or anyone else.
Yeah, and for me, that's definitely time to refer out. So it's nice to have. I sort of have a list of people that I'm comfortable referring out to, and that's really helpful. Let's talk about what would you like career coaches to keep in mind as they're doing their coaching work, and we'll start with Roberta. What are some things that you might want coaches to keep in mind? I feel like that might have been one of them that you just.
Well, I think I was actually. I'm afraid, Jim, I hopped ahead. I was thinking of that because when you asked that question of me earlier, I thought that is probably a real key. So if a client just keeps going around in circles and keeps doing the same things, they've probably got some trauma in their background that's not been treated yet. It's untreated. So that would be number one. But all the things, Sabrina is a coach and I'm not. So she really has, I've heard amazing stories of how she's been able to help people. And I've referred some of my clients to her. We refer clients back and forth now.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yes. One of my clients had a parent with another sibling who needed a job. And yeah.
That's awesome.
That she got employed. So Sabrina's amazing.
That's great. Sabrina,
she's my mom. She's supposed to say that, right?
Yeah. Oh, I love saying it. Couldn't
well,
be.
Yeah. Let me. I'll jump in and talk through that one a little bit. It's things for us as coaches to keep in mind. I think one of them is have a little courage to hold the space and allow your client to process uncomfortable emotions. Now, I didn't say fix. So if you can take yourself off the hook, say, I'm not a therapist. I don't have to fix. Therapists don't even fix either. They show up for the patient, the client to do their healing. But if we as coaches can just be present, just empathy, nodding, deep listening, even if you know not one iota of therapeutic approach, if you can just repeat back a little bit about what you heard, you will do wonders. Just that reflective listening. So what I'm hearing you say is it finally hit you about the layoff, and it just sort of came crashing down, and you just had this wave of panic, and you just repeat back whatever it is that you've heard. Is that right? Did I have it right? Is there anything else? And if you just allow a little bit of space for them to just process, because even if they haven't had childhood trauma, the past 20 months have created trauma for, I would guess 75% of people in the world have faced some degree of trauma because they've had some effect, usually from multiple fronts: isolation, loss of a loved one, job loss, fear about money, homelessness. I mean, the list is and then regular everyday stuff on top of what's been the result of our times of racial injustice and pandemic and everything else that's been in the atmosphere right now. So if we can kind of just treat each person as with real tenderness, like patience and compassion, and then just not be afraid of those emotions. If they can process them with you, and then you can calm them down. Hey, let's take a couple of breaths now. Then you might be able to then carry on and actually create that safe space for them and get at the career work after you've dealt with whatever has been the emotional stuff that comes up in the moment. So
a lot of, I don't know if you're done, but I wanted to respond to that. In that, I think being in the helping profession, I want to help people. I want to come up with solutions. I want to come up with action plans. I want to keep moving, baby. I want things to happen, and so there's a tendency to move too quickly through these coaching sessions. This is what I found early on. And what for me, mindfulness is about really working on that, slowing things down and being okay with silence. So you're paraphrasing or, what somebody has said and reflecting it back is a great tool, but silence is a great tool as well. And I think early on, and as a guidance counselor and as a career coach, I think I went too quick. I think I was trying to go to solution. When what we want is we want that client to go to solution, right? We want the client to have it, and they need the space. Even extroverts need the space to think, but introverts clearly need more space to think. But silence is the tool. As I think about mindfulness in my practice, it's really about being okay with that silence and allowing me and the client to sort of embrace that time.
Absolutely. I even bring some silence when I'm teaching webinars these days. I'll ask a question, and actually it's a recorded webinar, and it could be like a couple minutes of silence just to let them process. So yeah, it's powerful. Open spaces.
What happens in a silent moment? You can feel or sense somehow shift. And I found when the pandemic came, I was using the phone, and I would enjoy or appreciate the silent moments on the phone. And I would then, I would listen, and I would hear a shift without a word being said. And I'll say, what just happened? And the client would say, what just happened?
Yeah.
Quite fascinating.
The world that we live in is so fast paced, and there's so much information coming at us. And I think we have to be thoughtful about finding that time, so like for me, 2:30 every day, I try to take a meditation mindfulness break where I just go listen to a 20-minute mindfulness guided meditation, where it's just somebody's just walking me through whatever I'm having. But I try to do that every day at 2:30. It doesn't happen every day, but that's to slow me down. It's just to sort of go in the middle of the afternoon to say, all right, I know I have a ton of stuff to do, but I'm going to stop my brain a little bit. I'm going to slow that brain down. And
stop, doesn't
it doesn't want to, but the more I do it, and I've been doing it now for a couple of years now, and it makes a huge difference in how I approach the rest of my afternoon and whatnot. So,
yeah.
Any other final thoughts on mindfulness and how career coaches might use it?
I would say for anybody in the helping profession, use it for yourself first. Develop your own ways of finding you and being with yourself in this existence. I think that helps us be with others.
That's a great point.
Yeah. I'd build off that and just the general sense of take really good care of yourself. It's easy to get focused on everyone else. It's like, okay, what do I need? Continually asking, what do I need? And try and give yourself what you need. You know, I can do so much better work when I'm calm myself. Like the quality of my work is exponentially better if I've had chance to, you know, take my walks, eat well, get a decent sleep, not pack in too much. As my mom knows, I used to squeeze. Oh, I still squeeze a lot, but not nearly as much as I used to. So asking yourself, whether it's mindfulness practices or something else, on a daily basis, what can you do to take really good care? Because your clients will feel it. They will benefit from your taking care of yourself because you're that vessel. Yeah. I'm so much more intuitive. That's the last piece I'll say. My mindfulness practices, my walks, my yoga, and other things have made me so much more intuitive. And the stuff that comes out of my mouth, I'm sometimes like, whoa, okay. I get surprises myself. Did I just say that? Okay. And the client's like, oh yeah, that fits. I'm like, oh, phew, because I might say something unusual. So it's taught me to listen really deeply and hear my own intuition in service of others. So,
and you know, and technology has been a great tool, and there's been a lot of great things that have come from technology and stuff. But last time that we spoke, Sabrina, we did a walking phone conversation versus a Zoom call, and it was different. We were both out walking. We were both out. I was looking in, you know, I'm walking in the neighborhood. There's I'm in a wooded area, but your thinking is different when you're on the phone out walking. I just had my earbuds in, and we were just walking and talking, and it was different than what we're doing now. I mean, but that's what I think people need to embrace, is that it's not all about the technology. If I'm waiting in the grocery line, I don't need to get my phone out. Just be there. Just be present, you know, and find ways to do that. Find ways to calm yourself. So, well, listen, I'm going to wrap this up. Just want to say this has been awesome to spend some time with both of you. But I'm Peak Careers, Jim Peacock with Peak Careers, and I've been teaching the Facilitating Career Development class since 2001. And then I added online seminars for career practitioners in 2010. I do workshops. I haven't done a face-to-face one in a while, but I'm looking forward to the next one. I'm actually going to be doing my first face-to-face presentation coming up soon, up at University of Maine Orono grad class. I'm going to go up there. I'm also written the book Field Guide for Career Practitioners, and then last year I finished really an adventure of finding me in New Zealand is really about a travel time. It's not a career book. It was really a time. A year I spent traveling. But if you're a career practitioner or anyone who delivers career services, think about signing up for my weekly career emails, and you get the top 10 tips for working with an undecided person. You can connect with me on any of these social media platforms. I'm a lot more active on LinkedIn than any of them, but feel free to connect with me at any place. Thank you. Both Sabrina and Roberta, thank you so much for talking about one of my favorite topics. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Jim. This was a delight, especially to share it with my mom.
Yeah.
Very sweet.